Hey everybody, and welcome to this episode of the Wild and the Whites podcast. Without further ado, here is part 2 with Tom Arnold. I mean, in terms of, again, let's, get this tangent loop back into this time of year. What should you be doing to prepare yourself for next season?
Depending on, I guess, what your goals and your expectations are. If you're wanting to shoot a mature buck or a big target buck, you could be walking and looking for sheds right now. Yep. You could be out shed hunting. And if you find a ginormous set of sheds, you know that there's big buck in that general area. I say the general areas because deer will yard up in the wintertime up to, I've heard of, 3 or 4 miles from where their fall range is.
That makes sense.
They'll have a core area where they'll lay down most of their sign during the pre-rut and the rut, like we had talked about in the latter half of October and the first week of November until the rut really kicks off. And if you can find those areas, those are good to key in on. You can pick your trails, figure out how you're going to access them. If you need to go, I guess now would be a good time to, if you're just wanting to go out and find new areas, now is the time to do it. If you can find cool areas, like we're talking about swamps, we're talking about mountains and points, you have to be able to go check out new spots and change it up. And that's really what I'm doing this time of the year. Is I'm always looking for new spots. Because a lot of the times I'll go to a spot, and if people see my truck parked there or other trucks parked there, they'll be like, oh, cool. People will follow people. People, deer hunters especially, are very notorious for, oh, so-and-so's over here. They'll keep track of people, and they'll be like, okay, well, there's been a truck parked back here, and I know that guy killed a big one last year, so maybe I'm going to follow. Maybe I'm going to wait till he leaves, and I'm going to go in there tomorrow an hour before Tom gets back there, or Zach gets back there. So I always like to be able to bounce around. Like I said before, I'm accuracy by volume. I'll go out and I'll just hunt. I think I was up over 12 or 13 towns I hunted in. I mean, and you don't have to do that. Right. But I like to, I don't want to get tied down to an area or a specific buck. Because it's unrealistic for me to expect to be able to pattern a ginormous buck unless it's like we talked about early season and you're going in for a strategic hunt where you know of this deer. But with all the cameras that I've ran, and I've run no cameras before and I've been successful, and I've ran a ton of cameras and not been successful. And I've never shot a deer that I had on camera before. But it tells me that there's deer in the area, and then I can kind of work off of that in the same area. So I guess depending on what you're looking for, now, if you want to go out and you find a ginormous set of sheds, you can pretty much draw a 2-mile circle around where you found those sheds. And then look for where you would anticipate that deer to be bedding. Because what does he need to bed? He needs some sort of advantage, like we talked about. He could be bedding in swamps if it's down low, or if you're in mountains, like most of the areas that we have up here. Find points where he could be bedding off of in close proximity to food with security cover, and then you walk those back. You can just check out all the areas within like a 2 to 3 mile range. Where you would expect a buck to be based on kind of the terrain, the security cover, and the food that's available in that, I guess, area. So you find a ginormous set of sheds, you can try to do that, and then, make plans for the fall. And, presumably you go find ground scrapes and you find rub lines. I think I kind of skipped over the importance of ground scrapes. I've talked about it a couple times so far in this discussion, and we haven't really broken down how beneficial they are. Scrapes are huge.
They are, and I mean, I've definitely talked about them. We had a question and answer episode a little while ago about deer hunting, and I think it was in that one that I talked a little bit about scrapes. But you definitely know more about them than I do, because all last year, like when I came up on scrapes, I'd be like, yo, This is what I saw. This is what I think they mean. Am I right? Am I wrong? And you're like, well, you're not completely wrong. Yeah. And, it would help me out on that kind of stuff. So, there's obviously different types of scrapes. There's, how are you reading scrapes? When you come across a scrape now, especially because it's not fresh, it's been underneath snow, it'll look a little different now.
Little different, but it'll still you'll be able to tell a lot by it. Yeah. So, John Eberhardt breaks down different scrape areas really well, and there's a ton of information about it. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's people who only hunt over scrapes. Mm-hmm. You have to understand that a scrape is like I'm trying to compare it to humans, kind of like if we as humans left a mark everywhere that we went, mm-hmm. like in our house, in our communities. I guess a scrape would kind of be like not a grocery store, that would be where they're feeding, but kind of like the town hall.
Okay.
Everyone has to stop by the town hall to let the clerk and everybody else know what's going on. It's just a social hub. Yep. So the scrapes, deer are social animals, and they like to know what's going on in their areas where they're at. So scrapes, deer will use to communicate, to let everybody else know what's going on. Mm-hmm. Anyone who's walking by will stop in, the local gas station or whatever, the town clerk's office, town hall, say, hey, what's up? And then they'll go. So scrapes act like those social hubs where every deer that walks by, they'll go up, they'll lick the branch, they'll leave their forehead glands on it, or they'll, if it's during the rut, the bucks, once their testosterone levels ramp up, they'll pee in it, mm-hmm. To kind of let all the other deer know that they're there. Does during the rut, if they're looking to get bred, if they're receptive, does will actually go hang out at scrapes to wait for the mature bucks that they know will be coming by, and the does will actually seek out the older mature bucks with the better genetics to be able to successfully breed. So the bucks, when they lay down the scrapes, most of the time when they're kicking up the dirt that you're looking for now, when you find the ground scrapes now, postseason scouting after the crazy snowfall we've had, you have to gauge based on the proximity to security cover.
Okay.
So the biggest bucks, when they're at their peak testosterone in the pre-rut and the beginning stages of the rut, will lay down scrapes pretty much everywhere they go, because they want everyone to know that, like, they're ready, like, I am hot and bothered.
Yep.
It's go time.
Yep.
Let's go. And they're just mad and horny, and they just want to, like, let all the other deer in the area know. They'll do it as a way to mark their territory. What I'm looking for when I find scrapes is if they're security cover, because I'm sure pretty much anybody who's gone hunting has walked down a Class 6 road or an unimprovised trail, and they'll see scrapes right down the middle of it.
Yes.
And you're like, dude, this is like wide open. There's bucks that are hitting this scrape, like right on this Class 6 road.
Okay.
And it's possible that a big buck made it,
mm-hmm.
but pretty improbable. Deer do most of their traveling at night.
Yes.
Okay, so if it's in the wide open or on a field edge that's exposed and there's no security cover around it, odds are it was made in the middle of the night. And hunting it with any sort of expectation that you're going to see that deer in daylight, pretty minimal. But if you can find a scrape within security cover in close proximity to where you think the deer are bedding at,
mm-hmm.
then that is a lot more beneficial to key in on.
Okay.
And John Eberhardt talks about community scrape areas within mm-hmm. staging areas, mm-hmm. which is a big thing. A staging area is a location in between the bedding and the food where the deer can stage, maybe eat a little bit, but it's a social area before they go out into the wide open, which they typically only do at night where they're more exposed and they put themselves in harm's way. Staging areas where they're back in security cover, but they're out of their thick, nasty bedding area or up on the point. So the community scrapes are, if you can find those, that's what I'm keying in on.
Gotcha.
And when I look for a community scrape, I want substantial sign left on the ground. Probably, I guess, it's hard to say per exactly how big they need to be, but they need to be substantial in size. Yeah. Enough for me to see it from very clearly, like, hey, that's a scrape.
Yep.
Also, the licking branches. if you find scrapes in the wide open, like on the Class 6 road, it could be like any little one branch hanging over with a scrape under it, and you can follow that for a whole ways. But if you find them in security cover, a lot of the community scrapes that all the deer use in the security cover will have multiple licking branches, and you'll be able to tell because they'll be dinged up, and they'll use those typically if the cover doesn't change or there's no major change to the environment with intrusion. They'll use those pretty much every year. Every deer in the area is going to go back to those community scrapes during the pre-rut, and a little spike horn may run down the middle of a Class 6 road and make a scrape under every little sapling that's, you know, at
he's frustrated. He just wants to do
he's
something.
Sexually frustrated.
Yep.
I get it.
Yep.
I am too. I get it, dude.
Right.
I don't blame him at all. But he's just running around looking for does. He's not. You can't expect to kill a big buck hunting on a Class 6 road with any regularity. I mean, people do it occasionally, again, but that's a fluke thing. So, but if you're gonna look for scrapes now and find them, you want to key in on if there's security cover available. If there's a quick spot if it's close to a thicket or a bedding area, or if it's in a staging area next to food in between bedding where you think that they're bedding at. The community scrapes with multiple licking branches, that's the big thing. You know, and I hung some cameras over scrapes, and there's a dude named Troy Pottinger.
Okay.
He hunts like out in what is it? I think it's Nevada.
Okay.
Up in like the Rocky Mountains.
Yep.
And where he hunts, there's like mountain lions, there's wolves. I want to say it's Nevada, but it might be like Utah as well. But he's a killer.
Okay.
And he hunts over scrapes year round. And he makes his own scrapes. And what he'll do is he'll actually like he'll scrape dirt out of other existing scrapes into a plastic bag, relocate that, and then he sells his own synthetic like urine and forehead gland spray as well. And he'll actually go in with scent control in mind, like wearing rubber gloves and rubber boots, and he's hunted over scrapes like predominantly for the last 15 years, and he's been on all kinds of podcasts and everything, and he targets monster bucks up in the mountains that already have to be at an elevated level of knowledge to avoid being killed by wolves, mountain lions,
sure,
and then the crazy people enough to get up in the mountains and hunt for deer, because there's also elk in the area too. But he doctors and makes his own mock scrapes, and understanding how deer will always go check them because they're social, he'll run them year round, and he'll run cameras year round over scrapes. He won't necessarily need to kick up the dirt, but the licking branches, even in the off season, spring and summertime, the deer will still go utilize those licking branches as social hub areas.
Fascinating.
And he will target them, and then literally he'll like relocate scrape dirt like around the Rocky Mountains to make his own scrapes to pull deer out of their suspected bedding areas, so they alter their travel patterns, and then he goes in and he kills megas every year.
No kidding.
I'm a little bit of a fanboy of Troy Pottinger.
Yeah, that's fascinating.
Yeah.
And like you saying that, I have a video up. It's the one that really little skip came in on me at like 7 yards. That was on a swamp edge. I was probably, I mean, you can see it in the video. I was like 20 yards away from like the grass swamp edge. And then I was about 80 yards into the thickness from this like open softwood forest, that then on the opposite side of the softwoods were like fields and some fruit trees. So there was like some food source over there.
Yep.
And now that you're describing a community scrape with security cover in a staging area, I'm like, yeah, that's exactly what I think I was on top of. Because do you remember, if you remember in that bit, like I was on top of a scrape that was like 7 feet long. Like, it was huge.
So, multiple licking branches.
And tons of licking branches.
And good security cover, too. I remember hearing that deer in the video moving through that thick stuff before you could see its head pop out.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's
Absolutely.
that security cover.
Yeah.
High stem count.
Yep.
Where they can move around without getting tangled up and everything, but there's enough cover where they could lay down and you wouldn't know they were there.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. I had no idea that they were right there.
That's that good security cover, man.
Yeah.
That's a good spot.
Yeah.
Get back in there.
Yeah. I'll tell you where it is.
Yeah, we can do it after.
Yeah, definitely after. Yeah, because now I kind of want your take on it a little bit. But and that was a e-scouting. That was an e-scouting thing. I'm just like, all right, I want to do swamps because it's going to be a hot. Like literally, my brain was, it's going to be a hot stretch. I want to go near the water.
Yeah.
And that's when I just started e-scouting swamps, and I'm like, I've never been on this one.
Again, to break the stereotype, you follow enough deer hunting in New Hampshire page, big bucks are always up top.
Mm.
That's not true.
Right.
They'll hang out around water. Water is key.
Yeah, exactly.
So rivers, lakes, swamps, water is crucial. I hunt a lot around water.
I know you do.
It's hard to find water up on the mountaintops. There are big bucks up top.
Oh, absolutely.
But they're everywhere.
Absolutely there are. And sometimes things fluctuate too. Mm-hmm. They're not the same buck may be on a mountaintop at one point, but then also way down below at another point. So
yeah,
just because it's the same buck doesn't mean that he's living in one spot.
Yeah, there's a swamp in the southern part of the state that I hunted a couple times. And the last time I hunted it, I ran into a guy who was also in there hunting. Mm-hmm. And, I don't really, like I said, get tied down to spots. So I'll talk with people. I'll be like, hey, man, yeah, I was hunting over here off this island. I canoed back in there, and I was waiting to see one come out of there. And I got to talking with this guy, and we both knew about the same deer. I had run one camera in there, on the swamp island, and expecting that at some point in the pre-rut or the rut, maybe the bucks will be bedded on this one island, way out in the middle of this ginormous swamp. And he had also hunted the swamp quite a bit. He lived close to it. I didn't live anywhere near it, but he was like, "Oh, hey, you know about this big buck in there?" And I'm like, "Oh, this one." And I pulled up my phone and showed him a picture, and he was like, "Yeah, dude, that mountain over there is how I found this buck." And I followed him all the way down here last winter, and he would run off this mountaintop that was 3 miles away. Huh. We could see it from the swamp, and then he tracked this buck off the top of the mountain down into the swamp, and then he followed it through the swamp the winter before, which is how we found out about it. So yeah, I mean they'll be up top, but they'll move around a lot too, and they'll go wherever they're not going to get killed. Mm-hmm. So.
And the other thing, too, you mentioned earlier, you do have to hunt where the deer are, not just where you think that they should be.
That is the biggest thing.
A prime example of this, talking about swamps, talking about mountains, found a really awesome e-scouting again, high elevation swamp. So I'm like, oh, sweet. It's best of both worlds. And actually, Paul and I, this was a couple years ago, we hike all the way out to it. Now we're talking, it's a few miles out there. We're not just jumping off the road right into it and driving up to the top of this mountain. We spend a good portion of the morning getting out to it, and we're pumped. We're gonna go kill big deer out here. This is gonna be awesome. We get out onto it, and everything that we saw was indicative of a massive bull moose.
Yep.
And he had come into that swamp, and he said, "This is my swamp, and no one else is allowed to be here right now."
Yep.
And there weren't deer there at all. So even though it seemed like such a fantastic spot, once we got out there, it's well, we're not coming back here because he's not going to let the deer be here. So where are they? Right? We got to adjust because they're going to be someplace else.
Yeah, late September into the beginning of October, I've hunted a couple swamp edges too, nice grassy big swamps, mm-hmm. And then same thing. Big bull moose made his wallow pit right there, and he comes in and keeps me up in my saddle until 2 hours after it gets dark out because he's just pissed off, rolling around, horny as all hell. Yeah,
right. And if you think that a big bull moose is going to just like allow life to go on around him. It's just when they get into that rut phase, they're a different animal.
They're,
and it doesn't matter if it's a completely different species from him. He doesn't want it anywhere near that.
They get real weird. During that late September.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a video. This guy smoked a giant moose last year, bow hunting up in Maine. And the guy that they were with, or one of the people that they were with, talks about it. But when a big bull moose is like in his peak testosterone, and during their full rut, they are like a zombie.
Yes.
Where you could call to them, and you could be standing in the middle, and that's what these guys did. They were on a Class 6 road, like one of the logging trails up in the Allagash or something.
Yeah.
And they called to this moose, and they, scraped their antler against the sapling. And this moose came out of the swamp and then walked right down the Class 6 road. Right, they were standing on the edge of it. Like, they had to have seen him. I think one guy maybe held like an antler up.
Yeah.
But this moose walked to like 25 yards of them, giant bull moose, and they absolutely smoked it. It was an awesome video. But they talk about it, when they get rutted up, they're like a different animal.
Yeah, and
they could walk into a Mack truck.
If you like actually look at their eyeballs, they're crazy.
Yeah, they are.
Like, they are just tweaking out,
like Afghan demonic billy goat status.
Yeah, like they are just, their eyes, like there's nothing there. It's just wild energy.
Yeah,
and there's it's very so
sexual frustration, man. I understand.
You've said that a number of times.
I keep saying that. My wife is gonna be pissed. No, man, I get it. I'm a guy. I get it.
But no, like, so when you start going into some places like that and you start, oh, look, there's a moose here too, be careful, because it might be the only thing that's in there, because he might just be claiming that as his own, and he's not going to let anything else in there.
Yeah, that's true. Moose and bears. I mean, if there's the bears get pretty territorial too. I mean, I've seen one hunt in particular. I was out tracking a big buck down the spine, and it walked into this smoking hot oak grove, and I was like, oh cool. I walked right up on a big bull moose as I was tracking this buck. So I bring out my cell phone, I'm filming this bull moose, I call it in, ooh. This is November at this point, so the rut's probably over for the moose,
right?
But he entertained it. He walked a little close. I'm filming this moose at 30 yards, and then the moose snaps his head over, and then I look over and there's a black bear standing up like 35 yards away from me. So I pan from the moose to the black bear, and I'm filming the black bear standing up looking at the moose, and then I go back to the bear, and it's like the Mexican standoff thing where it's like boom, 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 boom. Like, who are you going to look at? Oh. And there was a big buck in there too somewhere.
Yeah.
But I think he was just rolling through. But that was one of those like crazy things that was like, I took a video of it with my cell phone. Mm-hmm. I had a shitty cell phone at the time. Didn't really do it that good of justice.
Right.
And I told people about it, and they're like, dude, no way.
Right.
And I'm like, oh, I got a video on my phone.
Yeah.
Check it out. And they're like, dude, that's the most amazing thing I've ever seen in my life. Like a giant bull moose in New Hampshire, and then a black bear standing up like in the same video. Like that's nuts.
Right.
And it was cool. And I was like, one of those things. It was like these things kept happening to me.
Sure.
When I was out in the woods that I tell people about, and nobody would believe them. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, cool, dude, I'm gonna buy a fucking video camera.
Right.
I'll film it.
Right.
Then you'll believe me.
Then you'll see.
Then you'll see. I'll show you. Yeah, and I mean, dude, I spend so much time, like I said, obsessing over deer hunting and putting so much time and effort into it, and I was bad at it for so many years without knowing it. I mean, I enjoyed doing it, but looking back, we had talked about it a little bit earlier, not to get too off track, but this will be my 20th year bow hunting, and up until probably 7 or 8 years ago, when I got really into mobile hunting and being strategic about it and doing all my research, I had no idea what I was doing. Really, I'd be like, hey, dude, I know there's probably deer up on this mountain. I'm gonna go try to walk as far as I can, and I'm just gonna go sit somewhere where I can shoot.
Yep.
Like that's it. You. And I did that a lot. And I remember I was in the Marines from 2011 to 15, and I got out and I had plenty of willpower, but not a lot of knowledge in 2015 to go out and kill deer. So I got a lone wolf climber, or not a climber, a lone wolf hang on and some Muddy Pro climbing sticks. And dude, I would hike that thing all up and down mountains. And I wasn't being that thoughtful about how I was approaching it, but I would hump this stand up these mountains, and I would sit, and I'd be good being mobile, and I'd get into new spots, but I wasn't in the right spots because I wasn't putting the work in.
Right.
And I went like a full year bow hunting, pretty hard, and I only saw like 2 does.
Yeah.
So then I started really like diving into what am I doing wrong? How can I improve? I got into watching the hunting public.
Yep.
And those dudes changed the game.
Yeah. Absolutely.
They started in, I think, 2017, and I started following them, and I was like, oh, dude, those guys got the gig. Like, they have got it dicked. That is such an awesome life that they're living right now.
Yeah.
I live vicariously through those dudes, but just go drive around across the country and just hunt deer and all kinds of crazy elk and everything.
Right.
Just a bunch of buddies that just drive around, film it, make YouTube videos.
Their life. Yeah.
So I started watching them, and I watched them like religiously.
Yeah.
And I got into like watching The Hunting Beast with Dana Infault.
Yeah.
And then some other guys too, like Whitetail Addictions.
Yep.
Like the Lone Wolf guys. And I was like, dude, man, these guys are all about it. And I realized like I'd get off work, or I was in college at the time. I got out of college, and like I'd come home before I had kids. I would just like watch deer hunting videos, no matter what time of the year it was. Like it could be hunting season, it could be December, it could be spring. I was just watching deer hunting videos, learning, dude. And then I discovered John Eberhart, the father of the godfather of saddle hunting.
Yeah.
And I started reading his books.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh man, like here's another way to improve my stuff. And I think I turned you on to one of his books.
You did.
Last year or the year before.
2 years ago.
Yep.
2 years ago, yep.
And
because it was 2 years ago I hunted out of a saddle for the first time, and then last year I bought a really nice saddle that I can keep for a long time.
The way that John Eberhart in his books, he breaks down scouting and primary scrape areas, destination food sources. It's a really good foundation.
Precision bow hunting.
Precision bow hunting, I think was the name of the book. Yeah.
Yep.
And then continuing on, got into this guy named Bobby Worthington and Troy Pottinger, and then learning all about deer, and it became like my full-time obsession that my wife is absolutely sick of it. She's a saint, God bless her. I mean, I don't know how she stayed with me, but like every hunting season since I think that failed season in 2015, like I've like been like, cool, took it personally, like I'm doing something wrong. I've got to get better at it. And every year since then, it's like, cool, I got to go out and scout.
Yep.
I got to find more spots. Like, I got to find a new deer.
Mhm.
Like, I gotta set realistic expectations for myself, and I'm gonna grind, and I'm gonna go and get after it.
Yep.
And I do that every year. And it's every year my wife is like, "Oh, you couldn't possibly like hunt any harder than you did last year, or you couldn't possibly, spend more time than you did last
Challenge
year." And I'm like,
accepted.
seriously? Is that what you think? You think I won't take our honeymoon off? Go out deer hunting? It's in July. But. So every year progressively for like the last 10 years, I have like tried to improve. And that's another thing too, is dude, like you have to keep learning. I got to a point where I would go out and I would sit in a spot and I wouldn't take anything out of it. I wouldn't learn. And I realized that I was failing because I wasn't learning. At least every time you go out, you should learn something.
Fair enough, yeah.
Pick up
Absolutely.
on something new about an area, learn something new, see something that you haven't seen, and be cognizant enough to realize that you learned something that day.
Yep.
And there was a time period in the, I guess, that stage where I realized that I needed to improve myself, where I would go out and I wasn't learning something, and I wasn't changing anything or taking anything out of the hunt, or all the effort that I was putting into it. So every time I go out now, if I'm either scouting a new area or going out hunting a new piece, I make it a point to be like, dude, I have to learn something about this area, or something about the deer, something about the, vegetation of the deer eating this in this area, or, these acorns are hot right now. Like, remember that these white oaks are here. Maybe they'll be dropping. I have to come back and check them in September to see if it's hot or not, because the white oaks are money.
Yep.
But just being cognizant to know that you need to learn something, and be aware to improve the future that you go out. So that was another thing that I really wanted to key in on. So now when I go out, I scout a million different places. I've got my hands in 25 different cookie jars throughout the state. Anyone could hold a big buck, but maybe I'll find them, maybe I won't.
Right. Yeah, I like now what you said about going out and learning something, because how it's kind of a realization that I got a little bit too, is I'm definitely getting sucked into knowing just enough that I think through something and assume something so much that I forget to just look around me on my process. So what I mean by that is, like, I might e-scout something. I'll be like, all right, I want to check this spot, and then I want to check this spot, and then I want to check that spot. And I jump in the truck and I go. And I am beelining for the spot that I want to go check out. Yep. And I guarantee I'm missing clues and signs and stuff to learn every single footstep along the way. So that's something I've realized recently that I need to adjust. And like when I was 4 years ago, having a very similar, like, okay, I want to spend a lot of time outside, and I want Mother Nature to just start teaching me things, and I just want to sit there and I want to try to take stuff in. And then I like you, I went into podcasts, I went into books, YouTube, and trying to branch out to people and asking questions on stuff and trying to figure it out, and trying to learn as much as I could in a short period of time, right? But I was so good at that when I was brand new, because I didn't know anything. And
sponge.
And I knew I didn't know anything. So I was just like, I'd set my first foot into the woods and I'd be like, all right, what now? All right, let's look around. And like every step along the way, I was learning something. Now it's like, I'm just like beelining for what I think is going to be this place. And then like I get there and I'm like, all right, well, that wasn't the case.
Right.
Now I got to figure out something different. Now I got to, reroute. Maybe they're there, maybe they're this, like blah, blah, blah. Okay, well, let me go back on my map and be like, okay, well, maybe they're here. And then I beeline for that place. Well, no, just slow down and look at everything around you and try to take it in. And I think that's that's something that this off season I'm going to work on more than anything.
Yeah.
And definitely during season next year, doing the same thing.
In season scouting, man. Yeah, you can have a spot in mind that you want to, but being cognizant enough to stop, slow down, and take it all in.
Yeah.
It's all. Again, it could be not where you want them to be, it's where they are.
Yes.
And if you walk,
that's what you mean.
You walk by the sign that says
100%.
that they're there. Well, why are they here?
Mm-hmm.
Let me learn something about this area. Oh, they're eating on whatever. Yeah, my buddy Josh shot a deer. It was random, but we ended up going to hunt this spot, and for whatever reason, during the third week of November, this mature buck, shot was a nice one, was mowing down in the wide open on like these weird shoots.
Yeah. It's on your channel.
Yeah, we did a YouTube video of it. We just walked into the spot, and there happened to be a big buck there. It was awesome. but this deer was just mowing down on these shoots. And as quick of a hunt as that was, we just happened to stumble upon this buck being like, hey, dude, this deer's eating on these like weird little grass shoots in this like kind of wide open field.
Right.
Why is he eating these? I wonder.
Yeah.
Random. Something to pick up on.
Right.
Normally, most guys would have just ran up and been like, "Oh my god, I can't believe I just shot this deer," which we did.
Right, absolutely.
We were hyped up, but
yeah,
always learning something, trying to.
Right, and that's like, even with like the does, because they're very patternable compared to bucks, especially like you say in that early season. Which for me, that's typically when like I'm ready to pull the trigger on a doe is like first day, and I'm just like, I want meat in my freezer.
Yeah,
I want pressure off. Like I just want, let's go. That early season, and when I'm hunting my fruit trees in the early season, that kind of thing, hanging out in that realm, that's when you sit there and you're like, all right, well, why are they coming from that direction? Why are they coming to this tree versus that tree? Because there's a reason for it sometimes there isn't. Right. And that's another thing you got to be okay with, is just being like, okay, well, maybe there isn't a reason, because you can drive yourself nuts trying to find a reason.
Yeah, man. You could try to make a million different reasons out of why they're doing something.
Right. And Travis is notorious for like trying to keep me grounded when I go into those overthinking spirals, because he's like, I don't think that they're really doing that for it. I think they're just doing that. Yeah. And I'm like, don't talk to me like that. Like I don't want to hear that right now. Like I want to be able to know why.
Right.
But
yeah, I mean, big bucks, like deer in general, they can be a lot more random, but big bucks are a lot more methodical with what they're doing.
Sure.
But if you are under the impression that you can go out there and take what you've learned and analyze him to be able to pattern him, sometimes you can, but to be able to do that with like every mature buck that you're going after that you know of, if you think that you can go figure out exactly what he's doing and why all the time, you got something else coming. Sometimes, I mean, that they'll be in random spots, they'll move sporadically, you can't pattern them all the time. Sometimes you get lucky. I feel like that's how I kill a lot of the deer. I'm in the right place at the right time, and I happen to decide to scoot up the right tree.
Right.
The area that I'm in may be for other reasons, but to have an opportunity to kill a big deer with a bow, or even with a gun, for that matter, like you can be in the right area, but there's a lot of luck that's into it too.
Right. But I think that's very, very true. And you can do a ton of scouting, you can run a ton of cameras, and it'll never fail that when you go into a place, you're going to see something that you didn't see on your cameras. You're going to see patterning that doesn't make any sense to you. You're going to probably have one of your other cameras light up and go, well, why didn't I sit there? Like there's going to be something that draws your attention away from just enjoying that moment and just being like, well, I'm here right now.
Yep.
And I need to just forget about trying to just like do it the way that my brain put it. I need to just let it happen the way that it's meant to happen.
You could,
if that makes sense.
Paralysis by analysis.
There it is.
Right? That's
is.
What, yes. How many times have you gone out in the woods?
I know where you're going with this.
And then you'll be trying to figure out which you know that you're in the spot, but
Which
you can't
tree?
pick a tree.
That's it. I knew exactly where you're
What's
going.
the
with
longest time that you have spent in a 20-yard section trying to pick out which tree to go in?
Gonna be honest?
Yeah.
Probably 15, 20 minutes.
I'm over an hour.
There you go. Yeah.
I know I'm in the spot. I know I'm at the spot, but I can't decide which tree. And in those moments, you need to shut the hell up and get up in the tree because you're burning your chances. You're burning
Right,
the area
right.
the longer you stand there on the
Right.
ground and you're not ready to kill something.
Mhm.
Because, like we talked about before, I mean, if you get a chance at a deer with a bow, never mind a mature buck in New England, dude, like,
Yeah.
those are few and far between.
Yep.
Really. I mean, and if you're sitting there at the bottom of the tree not ready to be killed, oh, and that's another thing too, is you need to be ready to kill, because that's what you're out there to do ultimately.
Yes.
Is to shoot an animal,
Mm-hmm.
to kill a deer, and you need to have like a killer instinct. You can't overthink it and be like, okay, well, he's not perfectly broadside, he's slightly quartering away, so the vital V is right behind there, and then you need to be able to have like a killer instinct, the ability to act quickly, because especially like if you're still hunting or you're tracking with a gun, like once you jump that deer up, he's running away. And that's kind of a unique thing to New England too, is that's a big, probably what the majority of people do, I would say, in regard is when there's snow on the ground, pretty much everybody's tracking.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll be out, but I'm stand bow hunting because I'm an idiot. But it's like that moment too. You need to be able to realize, like, hey, this is it. I need to get this gun up and get up on the deer and be able to function efficiently to be able to shoot this deer within 2 seconds before he crests the top of this hill or goes behind cover or squeeze off a shot between trees as he's running.
Yep.
And bow hunting is like the same thing too. Like you need to have that killer instinct at least to some point. And there's some people that deer hunt that are just like out to lunch. I'm not going to name names here, but they are like as soft as microwave butter, and they don't have like the, hey dude, like you need to pull the gun up. Like there's a deer in front of us right now. You don't have time to put your backpack down and take your scope caps off very nice and quietly. You need to rip those things off and kill that thing because he's staring at us. Like, you got to move.
This sounds like a very particular story.
No, just in what I'm trying to get at is like you need to. The moments are so few and far between, and when you put enough effort into it and enough time, understanding those moments are so rare. You need to be able to capitalize quickly, exactly at the moment that you need to. Is what I'm getting at. That's like,
because that may very well be your only opportunity.
A lot of the times it is.
Yeah, and that's okay. And that's where like you make your peace with God when you don't capitalize on it.
Yeah, I've had,
because I had 2 of those this past season. One of them, the one during muzzleloader, still kills me to this day. But it's, again, you just make your peace and you go, well, I just gotta put forth the energy and the time to make sure that doesn't happen again.
That's it.
And the money into new scope mounts.
Good gear. Buy once, cry once, dude. That's my motto.
I like that motto.
It's horrible for my finances. Horrible.
Yeah.
But buy once, cry once. Like I said, I got into self-filming because I kept taking these videos of like that monster buck shredding the little tree. I took a video of that 80 yards on my cell phone, could barely see it.
Yeah.
But I got it on video on my cell phone. People were like, oh, wow, that's cool.
Yeah.
It would have been a lot cooler if I had my camcorder and I was able to zoom in on it and get it in, focus perfectly and be able to really see how big the thing was. And then the moose and the bear thing too, like buy once, cry once. I'm like, cool, what's the hunting public dudes using? Oh, Sony NX80, fucking $1,200. Or not 1,200, $2,200. Cha-ching. Why not? I got a credit card. I'm not a financial advisor.
You're my kind of financial advisor. Yeah.
My wife does not approve of this message.
Do you think she'll watch this episode?
She probably will.
Because we say a lot of things on here that, I can edit things out if you need me to.
Yeah, I should probably take out all the frustration things. I'm not sexually frustrated. I'm just saying I'm a man. Maybe in the doghouse. I might need to sleep on this couch later, actually.
Yeah. No, we're going down a lot of avenues, but it really is, like, deer hunting is such a passion for you, and it's becoming such an obsession for me too. That you make me feel better about myself because you're more extreme than I am.
Yeah. Well, I'm happy to be here.
Right? It's like every time I think I'm overdoing it, and then I look at you, I go, well, at least I'm not Tom.
Yeah, seriously. You're not neglecting your family all fall. I'm happy to be your scapegoat. Yeah,
right.
We're good.
No, but that's the thing is, it's like it's a good obsession to have. It's a good addiction to have. We could be doing heroin. So
yeah, we could.
You know, if we got addictive personalities, which we both apparently do, at least this is what we're addicted to compared to some other things. So
yep, it's an evolution, man. It went from when I started out as a kid, I just kind of wanted to go out and kill something, like we talked about, youthful bloodlust, to going out and enjoying yourself in the woods, and then ultimately, you know, when you get to the end of the evolution, the top stage, you have so much appreciation for the animals that you don't even really want to hunt them anymore.
Sure.
I'm not there yet.
No, you're definitely not.
But
but I know a lot of people, my uncle being one, hunted his whole life. Now he is like, I can hunt without the drag by just carrying a camera with me.
Yeah.
And that's what he does now, is he literally creates blinds. He's like got his ghillie suit, and he's out there in the woods, like seeing as close as these bucks can get up to him, and he's filming them.
It's another hunt,
you know, like, and it is. He runs game cameras for the pictures, right?
Yeah.
Like, and that's it. Is he just loves getting the pictures of them, so then he can pattern them and try his best, so then he can get out there and he can sit and he can be there for the shot. But the shot's with a camera, not a bow. Yeah. Right? So it is. It's a very similar thing.
It's a separate hunt. And when you self-film your hunts, like I'm dumb enough to do, it's limiting. You're worried about your shot with the bow, first of all, getting an opportunity, filming the deer, you know, getting it in frame, getting it in focus, telling the story to the best of your ability.
Right.
And then you could get the shot with the bow, and then you missed it with the camera. Yeah, I've done that. Or you're too worried about getting the shot with the camera that you missed the slim opportunity that you've had with the bow. Right. And self-filming is difficult, man. Yeah. Like it's a grind. It's tough.
Right. It adds a whole other layer. Like last season was my first time ever even attempting to try to do any of it. And it's so many other layers that you got to do. It's so much extra movement and motion and noise possible. Yeah.
Oh my God.
That's a whole other thing. Yeah. Luckily, I found a really lightweight way of doing it because I film with my phone. I'm gonna be bringing a camera out eventually, but I am working a little bit more responsibly with my finances than you just worded it.
That's good.
Yeah, but not super, like, it's still questionable decision making, but I'm just a little bit more tactful with it.
Yep.
But so I have a mount for my phone that I actually found from this guy down at Huntstock that he builds them himself, and it actually clips right on your bridge of your saddle.
Oh, no way.
And you can put your phone on it, so then everywhere that you turn, your phone goes with you.
Oh, that's pretty sweet.
It's slick. It is. It's wicked slick. And it's called, I think it's called Saddle Eye, I think is what. Yeah. And it's just this dude from down south that he just makes those, and that's like his only product that he has on his website, but they're pretty sweet.
Yeah.
And where was I going? Oh, like, so that day that I missed that forkhorn, I'm like filming these does all the way over on this side, and they're like 100 yards away from me, but I'm like, sweet, does. Look at that. 5 of them hanging out there. I'm zoom in, zoom out, checking them all out. Then I just hear like, and I'm like, oh, wow. Now I have to alter everything from now over to this side. I'm going to try to get this camera on for that angle, because I got my GoPro up above me to get the little angle looking down on me. Yeah. And then I've got my view on my phone, and then all of a sudden I'm like, and then I got to remember to make a shot. I got to put it in proper shot placement, and And for me, then I'm like, I'll be honest on here, looking at that stump and being like, was that the 30-yard or the 40-yard tick that I made earlier? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And now that's going through your head too, because I had like a full 360 around me of like, this is at that yardage, this is at that yardage, this is, and then in that moment I've got a lot going on in my head, and I picked the wrong thing, or I put the wrong pin or something, and I didn't make the right shot, and right over his, just high enough that when he ducked, it went right over his back.
Yeah.
Right. So I didn't make the right shot. That's the bottom line, is I didn't make the right shot.
It happens.
And it does.
You gotta be able to be quick. I've done it too. Kill it.
And
that goes into the killer instinct thing, dude. You gotta
right.
be able to be efficient, move quickly when you need to, and understand that
Right.
if you move the wrong time, the wrong way, you're gonna get
Yep.
busted. If you don't, move the camera arm in the right way or set it before you swing around the tree to take the shot, you're gonna shoot the buck the second it steps out of frame.
Does that happen to you?
It did 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And that 6-pointer with the easterly wind that we talked about. Yeah.
The one in the snow.
The one in the snow. Yep.
Yep.
Put the camera, filmed it perfect, coming in, awesome footage. And then I'm like, yep, swing it out to the tree. Should walk right there, swing around, pull back, shoot it. Luckily, I had my GoPro on my head.
Yeah.
And I filmed it. But
Yep.
the thing walked right out of my main cameras. You can see its back foot when I shoot it.
Yeah.
Ugh, so annoying. And then the buck, this last fall, my bow buck from September, luckily the giant, was in frame when I shot it, but that was lucky too. I had a wide open lane from the other side of the tree, but where the camera was too. I was like, I can't let this buck walk through my lane. This is the moment. So I just threw the camera up that way, and I'm like, I hope it gets it. Don't care if it doesn't. This is a giant buck.
Right.
This has to happen now.
Yep. Yep.
So,
there it is, right?
That's it.
That decision of like one or the other.
Yeah. Luckily, I got both. But.
Right. And then all of a sudden, you're like, if you're focused on, I got to get the shot of my shot, then maybe both don't happen because you never get that shot off.
Yep.
So
it's a struggle, man.
It's fun though.
It is. It's
we
so
wouldn't.
fun.
We wouldn't be so into it if it was easy.
No, and that's another thing too is like the challenge having a.
Right.
You could be proficient at work. You can.
Would we be that amped up and excited over something if we could do it every day that we went out?
No.
Exactly. That's it. So you get that thrill and that addiction from the fact that it's just like it doesn't happen often, and when it does, it's that achievement that along with some luck that gets played into it.
Yeah.
But you put yourself there. You made the right shot. You made a lot of right decisions that day that you didn't know were the right decisions in the time, but they ended up being the right decisions.
Dude, the sense of accomplishment
is wild.
Unlike anything, dude.
Mm-hmm.
You kill any deer with a bow and arrow.
Right.
I think specifically with bow and arrows, gun hunting is cool, and I do it all the time. But like, dude, when you shoot a deer with a bow and arrow, it's just like primal.
Sure.
It is like you feel like such an absolute like savage caveman that just will like provide food for his tribe, dude. I don't know. There's something primal about it. Like just in shooting bows in general is so relaxing.
Yeah,
it's
that's
like
very true.
Therapeutic,
That's very
dude.
true. Yeah.
I just started shooting my bow again once the snow melted from my target stand enough that I just like started shooting my bow. And dude, I'm always in such a better mood after I shoot my bow.
Yeah.
Oh man.
That's another thing. If you're bow hunting, we could get on a whole other topic here. Don't start shooting in August.
Oh yeah, dude, you gotta be year round.
Right.
If you want to be proficient.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And even if you do that year round and you feel like you're proficient, throw some wrenches in your mix in your training schedule.
Yeah, if you're gonna hunt from a stand or a saddle,
do it.
You have to shoot out of a stand or a saddle at your targets before you go hunting. You can't shoot from the ground standing perfectly,
Right.
Parallel to your target from level 20 yards, 30 yards, 10 yards a couple times, and then expect to be able to get 28 feet up in a crooked tree and standing on 2 steps on the side with a camera and then shoot down or behind you from odd angles. You have to practice how you hunt.
Exactly.
Did we do that last year?
No, I
did
wasn't
it
able
with
to make
Travis.
it over to
Yeah, you were going to, and then you bailed. That's right. Yeah.
Wow, called me out. Yeah.
Yep. You should have. I do that with everybody. I have a couple 3D targets, and then I got a little creek in my backyard, so I'll go set people up in the saddle, and then I'll pull arrows for them and move the 3D targets around and have them shoot from hunting height, and practice, deer's right at the bottom of your tree.
Yeah,
I've had that happen before, man.
Wild shot.
Yeah, it is, but it's one that you might have to take.
Right.
Not a lot of people practice shooting straight down at a deer right under them.
Nope.
But probably should, because that happens a lot. Mm-hmm. Or, in between two trees that you have to like swing out to an uncomfortable position, or maybe you're offside or straight back, and if you don't practice like that, you can't expect to reasonably be able to do that. So practice how you shoot out of a saddle or out of a stand, and from height, and the different effects that gravity will have if you're shooting from higher up or lower down.
Right.
If you're shooting uphill or downhill, you have to be able to know how to hit the animal you're shooting at.
And just like the angles that even a little bit of height difference can make.
Yeah.
Because like I'm like a 25 foot kind of guy. You're a little bit more
situation dependent, but I like to go high.
You like to go real. I know, like sometimes you go real high.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
I think 36 is the highest.
Okay.
I've hunted.
Yeah. I thought you were.
But that's still pretty high up.
It is really high up. That's an extra 10 feet from where I'm at. Yeah. Absolutely.
But
I have gone up to like 30. There was a specific spot where like I was like, okay, I need to really get myself up there, but I usually don't. But when you are up at that steep of an angle too, that can really change a lot of things.
Yeah. So like if I will typically, you have to think about your arrow flight from, if you're on the ground. Yeah. I'll pick my major landmarks before I go up in a tree. If I'm going to hunt from it, I'll look around and I'll say, okay, that stump is 10 yards. That birch tree is 20 yards. I'll go up into my hunting height, and if it's 25, 30 feet, I'll range that stump and it'll show 14 or 15 yards because I'm so high up because the triangular angle.
Yep.
Most of the time I'll still shoot it for 10 because the angle is so much different, and when you're obviously hunting from height, you want to aim lower too, because the gravity from you shooting a straight arrow, the same force of gravity is along the arrow if you're shooting on the ground. But if you're up high, the arrow's already got the downward gravity and it's not as significant, so you want to aim lower from an elevated position.
Yep.
So I always aim for the heart, always.
Yeah.
But
aim small, miss small.
Yeah, and that's another thing too.
Yep. Or you can be me and aim small, miss big.
Yeah, I've missed plenty of them, dude. Probably one of the biggest deer I've ever seen in the woods. I shot right over the top of his back.
Yeah,
28 yards, dude. Oh. I was 16.
Oh yeah,
16 or 17. I was in high school. Yeah. And it was a mega. I can't even believe it, dude. Oh my god, thinking about it. And those memories will stay with you, dude. Like the good.
That was half your life ago.
Yeah,
it still hurts,
dude. I can still see that thing coming broad daylight too. Early season, September, like 20th or something.
Look at his eyes right now. He's actually visualizing this.
This deer ended up getting killed by a local guy, like the year after.
Oh, no kidding.
And it had a 28 or 29 inch inside spread. It was like out here, dude. It was massive.
Wow.
Yep.
Okay, yeah.
And I shot right over the top of his back the year before.
He just he wasn't meant for you.
No, not mine. That's okay. I learned from it though. I wasn't aiming at the heart. I was aiming at his lungs. I don't know if he ducked or if I just sucked, but shot right over the top of his back, dude.
Yep.
Oh, it happens. You remember the big ones. They don't come around often, dude. So when they come, you got to be able to capitalize. And that's like the big thing is, dude, you got to be a killer, man. You got to be ready to kill.
Yep. And that's something that I definitely notice about you is your like laser focus when that happens. Like you can see it in your videos too. From your when you run a camera angle that like I can see you while you're doing it, that like you're not shaking as much. You're shaking sometimes a little bit.
I am,
but like but your eyes are like, it's like a laser focus, and then all of a sudden, like afterwards,
dude. Oh, God.
It all lets
Adrenaline
out.
dump.
Yeah,
dude.
absolutely. But I mean, like sometimes, like you can see from like the GoPro, your like cams are doing this a little bit, but that's total. Like, I'm not saying I don't, because I absolutely,
dude, that's
I'm
like,
shaking too. But
one of the only things in life that'll make me shake like that, dude. You put a big buck in front of me, or you put a deer in bow range.
Yeah.
You know, I've been hunting long enough where it's like, oh, come on, dude. This is just a doe, Tom. But I'll find myself like, hey, man, like, this doe is like 15 yards, and like, I can crank that thing right now. Like, come on, dude. You're like, why are you shaking? Come on, man. Pull yourself together.
Right.
But,
well, I like venison,
dude,
man.
that's like, yeah.
Right?
Oh, my God, dude. The
I like
meat
venison.
I had venison steak and cheese from my son's buck today. Oh, my God. I gave one of the guys at work, too. He forgot his lunch, and I made him a steak and cheese because I brought enough for 2 subs, and he was like, dude, this is amazing. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, yeah, buddy, that's venison backstrap. Steak and cheese guy. Like, it's the cleanest, the most delicious meat.
Yeah.
And I have a bunch of kids, so my kids and my wife, eat my entire paycheck every week. And price of groceries right now, dude, like, I haven't bought meat. I say that my wife has gotten some like weird turkey burger stuff, but like steaks and hamburger I haven't bought in years.
Awesome.
And I'm glad because dude, it's a game changer, man.
And you're not buying farm raised.
No, dude, it's the cleanest, most like delicious meat that there is. Like, oh my God.
Yeah.
You can't beat it. You can't beat it. I feel better when I eat it, dude, and I eat it all the time.
Right.
And it is awesome. Another perk of being successful.
Right.
You get to, oh my God, continue to enjoy it.
Yeah.
For months.
Yeah.
Unless you have as many kids as I do, and then you have to make sure that, between your kids and you get multiple deer a year to be able to feed the family.
Yeah. Yep. Luckily for you, you got a lot of tags that can be filled.
Yeah.
Does included.
Yep. Daniel shot his doe, and I ended up with two nice bucks last year, so hopefully we'll be able to stretch the meat out until September.
I know.
It'll be close, though. I mean, we eat a lot. We eat probably 3 or 4 times a week.
Yeah, there you go.
Venison, whether it's steaks or hamburger or sausage, breakfast sausage in the morning, dude. Like, it's awesome.
Yep. I mean, I only killed 1 deer last year, and I'm one person, and I've made it about halfway through my meat already. So, and that's just little old me.
Yeah, we might need to go on
although I do give some of it away to people, but
might need to go on an out-of-state trip, slam some does.
Yeah, dude. Let's do it.
I'm game.
Yep. No, I wanted to travel a lot more than I did last year. I had plans to go to Maine, and they fell through, but and then I even reached out to you a little bit, and we just never got to doing.
Yeah, I went to Maine like once or twice last year.
But I've got a tentative invite for a New York trip.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Guy I know has a group of buddies that they go out to like a 450-acre farm, and they just like massacre, apparently. Yeah.
That's what's up, dude. Meat in the freezer, man. All about it.
But yeah, I would definitely. And then Vermont's going to happen again. They're actually looking at changing the Vermont laws so you can hold, each person can hold 2 antlerless muzzleloader tags this upcoming year.
Wow.
I don't know if it'll pass or not, but Vermont is extremely desperate for people to kill does right now in that state. They really just want.
I've never hunted in Vermont.
No. Well, if you're interested,
potentially.
It's a meat mission when we go out there. It's not anything but just first thing you see that's legal, which is if you have an antlerless muzzleloader tag, anything without horns, which is 95% of deer in Vermont.
I don't know if there's any truth to it, but I've heard that like when the whitetails were introduced to the area, New Hampshire got there's a different strain of deer in New Hampshire than there is Vermont.
Yeah,
and
I've heard the same thing.
The New Hampshire deer have substantially bigger bodies and racks than the whatever. But I don't know when they were if they were extinct at any point in the region or not.
From what I understand, that it was all hunting pressure that lowered the numbers down a lot, so that that Northern Borealis subspecies that they have in like northern Maine and you know, all the way through like Saskatchewan, that used to be in this area back with like the wolves and everything like that, that is no longer really here as much because they imported them from like Tennessee up here. And I think, if I remember correctly, we're talking not that long ago, like sometime within like
the 80s, I think, or 80s or 90s.
I was going to say a little earlier than that. I thought it was like more
Maybe.
towards the 60s, but yeah, sometime like in that area, there was a big plot of a lot of them up here. And that's why you have the inbreeding between the Northern Borealis and then what they have brought in. And that's where you get all these weird genetic quirks. That's what I've heard from people that know way more about this than I do, listening to podcasts and stuff like that. And that's where like you can see like the racks and how like, yeah, why does we're just gonna, you know, in this town over here, they got really short bodies and their racks are all like kind of wide. And then like over in this town, well, the genetics are really just like, you know, really tight racks and really long bodies for some reason. And that's where the mixture of the two are coming from, the different genetics from the really short-bodied, big racked southern deer.
Yeah.
And then the like really thick-bodied, more lower, smaller racks in the north, like the Northern Borealis. So
yeah, that makes sense. I've heard like genetically up north, like the deer don't have as big brow tines most of the time.
Yeah.
And then I've also, I guess one of the reasons why I haven't hunted in Maine is because everyone says that there's not as many bucks in Maine and that the deer are smaller. But speaking of Vermont hunting, I think there was a video that dude posted of he was tracking a buck up at the top of this mountain in the snow, and then he shot it through some like hemlocks or some spruces at like 15 yards and it almost ran him over. Did you see that?
Yes.
You see that video?
Yes.
And he shot it again, like point blank.
Yep.
Dude, that guy was awesome. What a sweet track that was.
Yeah,
huh?
right?
Holy hell.
Seriously. Yeah.
That was a sweet buck from Vermont. If that was, pretty sure that was from Vermont.
Yeah.
Maybe not, but.
You know, I've heard about, like, I go to Huntstock. I know that you don't, but, like, listening to a lot of the trackers talk, that actually happens more than you'd think.
Yeah.
And because they say, their theory behind it is that the deer hears you coming and they almost think like you're another deer, especially if you're like grunting as you go or something like that. They think that you're another deer. Another deer means safety.
Right.
So when all of a sudden they're like, oh, ow, they're like, I got to go to the other deer because I might be in trouble. So they're going to run right at
Rodney
that
Elmer
safety.
said that, didn't he?
Yeah. But he's not the only one that said that either.
Yeah, I've heard that.
So, which is kind of interesting. But yeah, he is. I have heard him say that for sure.
Yep.
Yeah. But yeah, we could definitely do some out of state stuff. I wouldn't mind going down to like Pennsylvania.
I've thought about it. I waited too long. Last 2 years ago, I went.
Remember you went down there, yeah?
And I ended up waiting too long before I bought a non-resident tag, and I ended up getting stuck in a unit in like South Central PA, which is the epicenter for chronic wasting disease.
Oh,
where every deer that you shoot down there, you have to like cut the head off and leave it in a dumpster for them to test it, and then don't eat it until you get your test results back, kind of deal.
Yep.
Yeah, it was cool. We saw a bunch of deer, but I would have preferred a better unit where I didn't have to worry about.
So how does it work down there? You put in for it like early, and then
yeah, they have like
is it a lottery or?
Yeah, it's not really a lottery. I think they allot a certain amount of tags per unit.
Okay.
And then obviously the non-chronic wasting disease units will sell out before, because they'll give more tags out. And then not as many people put in for the epicenter of chronic wasting disease too, because I'm imagining that there's, more chance of, catching. I don't think it's transmitted to humans yet, but just you don't want to shoot a sick deer.
Right.
So I think when I had went to go buy the tags for non-resident last year, all the other units had already sold out, and the only ones left were in this one unit, 4C, I think it was. That was like just CWD everywhere, like the epicenter. Like that was the red zone of the state for it. But we did see some big bucks out there. Didn't shoot any deer, but it was still fun.
Yeah. You saw something.
Yeah.
Although it's not as much of an achievement down there.
No, but, dude. And I take it. I'd shoot a doe with my bow in New Hampshire over like a buck in Pennsylvania.
Really?
Yeah, it's more of an achievement.
Okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Yep.
Not that you'd pass up a buck in.
No. But PA, I mean, Bo Martonic, dude, he hunts the hills of PA.
Yep.
That's another dude. East Meets West Hunt podcast.
Yep.
That dude's a killer.
Yep.
I listen to a lot of his stuff.
He's got some really cool podcasts about like traveling out west.
Yeah.
He really like he's. I mean, that's what he is. His title of his podcast means.
Yeah, East Meets West. Yeah, he like goes elk hunting and stuff. But
wasn't he just on? Was he on Meat Eater recently? I think he was.
It wouldn't surprise me.
I think he was on the Wire to Hunt podcast because they were doing stuff about different trips, and like they picked like Alaska and like all these different things, and I think he was on that talking about his stuff. But I've listened to a lot of his stuff already.
He's another guy that he talks about like hunting mountain deer and trying to like pattern them and hunting strategically a lot too. I picked up been watching a lot of his stuff, along with everybody else. Like I said, just in the continuum of nonstop deer research. And
what's great is I spend a lot of time in a car, whether it's at work or driving around to and from places. So I got like that's why podcasts are such a big portion of my life.
Money, dude.
Or precision bow hunting on audiobook.
John Eberhart. Listen to his stuff.
Right. That book is phenomenal because he breaks it down like month per month. So it's like, all right, I'm coming up on April. John, what should I be doing?
Postseason scouting. That's what he'd say.
Right. Yep.
Everything that we just talked about.
Exactly.
Much.
Yep.
I'm just relaying information from all these different people that I watched and just be a sponge. Take it all in and try to retain as much as you can and then apply it. It's hard. You can't really apply it. New Hampshire is kind of a crapshoot to be able to apply a lot of this stuff, but just generalized deer behavior, you can attempt to apply it and then see what sticks. And
that makes a lot of sense.
Just keep trying, dude. Time in the woods.
Yeah.
Accuracy by volume.
And that's when like I started to be like, oh, big woods guys, mountain deer, like that kind of stuff, because they're out here and all they do is track. And I'm like, well, I bow hunt.
Yeah.
So it's like,
hard. It's hard, yeah. Like there's this dude, Kyle Bentall, I think is his name, KBB Outdoors.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
He did a podcast.
He just posted a turkey video.
Yeah, he did a podcast with John Eberhart.
Yeah, he did, didn't he?
And then he was kind of talking to John Eberhart about like the struggles of hunting in New Hampshire and New England as opposed to, and even, I think John Eberhart had mentioned at one point, like, yeah, dude, it's kind of a crapshoot in New Hampshire because the deer population isn't what it is in Michigan or Wisconsin or any of the out west, Midwest states where they hunt. But generalized deer behavior, you can try to pattern them and try to be analytical about it. But it's hard with the low deer densities that we have up here.
And so that what it also makes hard is you can be out here and you're like, well, I feel like I'm doing everything right, but like I must be doing something wrong because I'm not seeing or having opportunities on giant bucks. But I feel like you actually could be doing everything right, but because of the densities, like, well, that's okay because you were doing everything right. You put yourself everything to your advantage, and it just wasn't there.
Yeah,
in that moment.
I mean, if you look at, there's guys that are killers that kill big deer every year, and they can do it. Typically in New Hampshire, the people who are killing big bucks every year are doing it in one of two ways. They're either tracking them down and doing that on snow, or they're putting time in pinch points and funnels during the rut and just catching the movements where they're pinched down and condensed. And those guys will sit in the same stand over and over and over again for hours and hours and hours until eventually a buck that's cruising during the rut will run through there or walk by them, and then they'll get a shot. And if you can do that, you can be consistently successful, but it's a grind. You watch these guys, they'll spend a week straight in the same stand looking at the same things over and over again all day. And all power to them. They kill some slammers, dude, but I don't know about if I could do all that, really. I don't know if I have the attention span to do that. I always like to hop around, and like I said, they'll get it done and they'll shoot giant bucks, but accuracy by volume, dude. I'll just go out and I'll sit one stand once, move a little bit the next time if I'm going to hunt the same area, and then I'm bouncing. I'm just bouncing around, and eventually, hopefully, I get lucky, and maybe not. Sometimes I don't.
Sure. Right.
But the amount of time, it's all about time in the woods, dude. Just spend as much time, and eventually the stars will align. I think you're going to have a good year this year.
I don't know.
Let the record show. March 17th. Tom said Zach's going to have a good year deer hunting this year.
St. Patty's Day.
It is,
It
dude.
is. Yep.
Man. Should be having a Guinness or something.
I know we should. I dropped the ball on that one.
Yeah, it's all good.
My day went to a different route than I thought it was gonna today.
No.
So
All good.
but
Sweet.
yeah, no. How long have we been going already? Oh, dude, yeah. We got 2.5 hours.
That's a good one.
Hell yeah, man. This is part 1, part 2, part 3 right there.
Boom. Not bad for the first podcast. It's actually flowing pretty well, I think.
Oh, absolutely. This is podcasting.
Dude.
You sit down and talk like we do normally. We just record it.
Yeah.
That's all that it is.
We could do this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking it would be a lot more difficult to carry on conversation.
No, I'm phenomenal
I
at
knew,
getting people
I
to
knew
talk.
we could talk forever about deer hunting, but to carry on smooth conversation that long,
Right.
I don't know how well we did. I mean, you be the judge, but
No, it'll be good.
yeah.
It'll be good. So anything else in closing that you would just say to maybe like new hunters this time of year? Yes. So you're going to go out, you're going to scout, you're going to look for stuff from last season. We've touched on all that, but you're going to practice, get out, start practicing shooting now with your bow. Even go to the range with your gun if you're going to do that because of that killer thing, right? If you grab, I shoot a 30-06 pump. I have a 22 caliber pump that I like to practice with because it's way cheaper.
That's
and
awesome.
it operates the same way, right?
Yep.
Get out there with your gun and do it, and practice with it so that when that deer shows itself for those 2 seconds, you have a little bit more of a hope and a prayer of making it happen.
Yeah.
Anything else that you can think of for this time of year, right here, right now, here, middle of March, that would help a new hunter that's going into next season with ready to go? What can they do now to make themselves better?
If you're going to acquire any new equipment or make any upgrades from last year, figure that out now. Don't wait until the month before deer season starts to try to find the gear that you need, because everyone's going to buy it at that time and it's going to sell out.
Yep.
So if you want to get into scent lock clothing, now is the time to do it because they're running discounts on all their stuff.
They are too.
And if you try to buy anything outside of 4X during the month before deer season, you're not gonna find it.
You're right, 100%.
If you want to get a new set of climbing sticks, like I'm probably gonna switch to the Latitude sticks, the super light ones this year, because I'm tired of my middle muddy ones clanking around on me a little bit. They've done great, and I've killed a bunch of deer using them, and I'm just, with all the camera gear and everything that I hike out, I'm just trying to drop weight and make it a little bit easier for myself. So I'm probably going to upgrade to the Latitude sticks. So I'm going to buy those soon. Any gear upgrades that you're going to do, if you're going to buy a new bow, don't wait until August. If your season opens September 15th, like it does here, do it in the next month or two so you can spend all spring and summer shooting, getting proficient with that bow, breaking the string in, getting your arrow tune set up perfectly so you're ready and you're not trying to get your bow worked on because you put your broadheads on it and your tuning was all jacked up, and then you're trying to find a shop that can help you tune your bow the week before bow season, and they're telling you they've got a 3.5 week turnaround, so you've got to drive all over God's creation. I did that. I shot all last year, dude. I shot all year, and I put a new string on. That's what messed me up.
Gotcha.
My string got jacked up, and I had to put a new string on. And I couldn't get it tuned. Couldn't get it tuned right. And it was like September 2nd. And
I remember.
I'm like, hey man, I cannot get this thing tuned for some reason, and I needed to get all kinds of yokes, twisted into my cables and stuff. And I couldn't. My arrow was coming out like a Drew Bledsoe sidearm, dude. The thing was flying messed up. And I was freaking out because I didn't think my bow was going to be ready for deer season. So don't wait. Like if you're going to get a new string put on your bow or something, or make any upgrades to your bow, do it now.
Yep.
And don't get married to one spot. If you're a new hunter and you haven't established an area that you're kind of confined to, and you have the ability to drive to different spots and check them out, have backup spots. I like to go find a couple new spots every year to keep branching out. And then obviously if you have history or you have knowledge of a certain spot, keep that in the back of your mind, but go out and find new spots. You can go out shed hunting now, just walking, looking for deer, and you could find, a massive set of antlers that a deer that you never knew existed.
Sure,
you could try to pattern him and figure out where he's at and do the circle thing like we talked about to try to backtrack him to figure out where he's at in the fall. It's going to be different than where he's at when he dropped his antlers, most likely, but could be within a mile, could be within 2 miles.
Right.
Probably, it's in the same county, most likely, so depending on the work that you want to put in to try to, key it in on him, then, that's all more power to you. So,
but don't worry, he probably dropped those in late December when he was 7 miles away from his home range.
Could have, dude.
You don't know, right?
He could have.
Yeah,
man.
exactly.
Like we talked about, they'll move. I've heard of them move up to like 4 miles, three or 4 miles to their winter yards, and even the same thing from their summer to their fall pattern too. Once they break off their bachelor groups out of their summer feeding pattern, dude, they'll move up to. I think was it MSU Deer Lab did a study, dude, and that guy like some of those bucks moved like 4 or 5 miles out of their summer range into their fall range. So like, just because you got pictures of them in velvet on one of your trail cameras doesn't mean that if you go in there in September he's still going to be there.
Right. So
yeah.
Dude, that's another fascinating podcast.
Dude, oh my God. Yeah, you could try to you could try to analyze the hell out of that too and apply it to New Hampshire, and it's just like not feasible. Just the mountains and the terrain and everything and the deer densities here are totally different. But
some of the basic behavioral stuff that they talk about there, like
how much they move in the daylight and everything, dude.
That kind of stuff, yeah. Or just like when they did that whole study on when there was hunting pressure versus not, and then like they had different sections of this area with different types of pressures, right? And noticing how like the bucks actually weren't moving as much as you thought they were. They were just like shifting a little bit off and just like working that security cover just a little bit differently. But they're still right there.
Close, dude. they're there.
They're right there. But there's no way that hunter knew that they were right there.
Right.
It's pretty cool. For those who don't know, that it was all electronic monitoring collars that they were utilizing on these deer for these studies. And like with that hunting one, they did it in a hunting area, and the hunters had no idea. They were just instructed not to shoot any of the deer that had collars on them, I believe.
No, they could shoot them.
They did?
Yep.
Okay. All right. So then, So, it was fascinating.
A lot of information. Hard to apply it, but for New Hampshire, I would say, if you want to go out, pick out spots, find these, features that we talked about, rub lines, ground scrapes before the green up, because once May comes around, the middle of May typically is when it hits hard. It gets real hard to find the sign and be able to determine if it's fresh or not. So right when snow's out, boom, now is the time to do your postseason scouting.
Plus May, you're going to want to be hunting turkeys. So
go out turkey hunting. Definitely go turkey hunting. Turkey hunting will keep you in shape too. Oh, that's another thing too. Stay in shape.
Yeah, try to at least.
Circle is a shape. That's what that's what I tell my wife. She's like, "You're out of shape." It's like, whatever. Circle is a shape. No,
it does make your life easier though if you are in shape going into hunting season. Yep. Take it from someone who knows the other end of it. If you're out of shape going into hunting season, you hate your life.
Yeah.
So just thank God I'm as stubborn as I am.
Keep putting miles on, man. Right. Keep grinding. Stay alive.
Yep.
Don't get married to one spot. Maintain a positive attitude and just keep learning. Make it a point to learn something every time you go into. Even if you've been in the same piece of woods 100 times, dude, just make it a point to try to learn something that one time you went in there. Check out a little area of that piece of woods you've never been to. See what the deer are eating on, or see where they're, if there's any beds, or just try to pick up on little details. To learn at least one thing that you make a note of every time you go out in the woods.
I like that a lot.
Yep.
I agree.
do that. Shoot your bow. Be a killer. Stay after it, because it only takes one time. Like I said, dude, this is my 20th year bow hunting in New Hampshire.
Yeah.
And I've killed a couple good ones. but the opportunities don't come around often, so you got to be ready. So practice, be a killer, and keep going, keep grinding,
but have fun.
Yeah, if you're not enjoying yourself, then you're doing it wrong.
Yeah.
So even when you're in the season and
it's super easy to do, so don't beat yourself up just because you're not having fun all of a sudden.
Yeah.
It's super easy to get into that mindset.
Yeah, you could,
but correct it. And I think there's two ways of correcting it. One is wrong and one is right. The one that's wrong is to take a day off. Stay inside. But sometimes you absolutely need it.
Yeah,
right? Man. But I think it's kind of wrong.
Yeah.
The best way, in my opinion, is pick somewhere completely new.
Change it up.
Change your scenery, change everything. Go in there, see something totally different, and reset that way. So you're still in the woods, you're still learning, you're still out there, you got the fresh air, you're getting the reps in of climbing that tree, getting everything set up, you're not getting rusty, you're keeping your body going, you're keeping your body warm and loose. But it's brand new, and you're resetting that way because you're not just doing the grind that you've already been doing.
Yep. And if you hunt with people,
yeah,
hunting, I've always gone out by myself, but if you have friends that hunt in the same style as you or that are willing to go out with you, going out with friends is a way to change it up.
That's a very good point.
To be social about it, and people are like, "Oh, you'll go out with me? Like, you want to go check out a deer spot together?" We hunted together for the first time this last fall.
We did, yeah.
We weren't successful.
That's fine,
but it was still a good time. When we went out, and we talked about it. We were able to bounce ideas off each other, what we were seeing while we were in the tree, and it was a nice change up. Right, because normally I'm talking to myself, cursing myself, and whispering, swear words. Fucking no deer here. God damn it, Tom. You pissed me off. Just getting in your own head. So,
but you want to talk about analysis paralysis?
Yeah.
That day that we went out there, and I'm like, I'm gonna get in this tree. You're like, okay, cool. I'm gonna go over here, and I look at that tree. I'm like, once I get up there, I'm not gonna have a lane that way at all, and I think they're gonna come from that way. I'm just gonna go another. Oh, look at that tree over there. And then I got up in the tree, and I'm like, yeah. No, I don't like this. I climb back down the tree.
Realize when you're doing that. And I've gotten good at it, realizing it, and I've done it. I still do it, but there comes a point where you just need to make a decision.
Yeah, 100%.
And I guess the overall theme is don't overthink it.
Yeah,
which is hard.
Which is exactly what you're doing.
Given everything that we just talked about and all the different variables and aspects and sign and everything, is just don't overthink it, man. Go out in the woods. Use what you know and hope the stars align. Right. Get after it.
Look at Buckley's story.
That's it, dude.
Right?
Don't overthink it.
Dude, he's out there freaking kicking leaves around. He's done for the day. He is sore. He is tired. He's making as much noise as he can because he's just fed up. And Paul happened to be just walking in the right spot and bumped that buck up, and that buck happened to run right to Andrew.
Yep.
And the rest is history.
That's it.
And so sometimes, like you said, the stars align.
They do. I just remember I tracked this buck for 8 miles in the snow. We got 16 inches of snow, like 4 or 5.
8 miles and 16 inches of snow.
8 miles, dude. And I was wearing rocky, heavy, muddy boots, dude.
Oh, God.
It was miserable. But I tracked this deer from sun up to sundown. I'd given up on it, up over the top of this super steep mountain. Given up, like you said. Quit. I was like, I've got 3.5 miles straight line walk back to the truck. It gets dark out in 20 minutes. I'm done. I'm giving up on it. So I left it, and I was sliding down this mountain, dude. And as I'm sliding down these literal granite faces from the top of this 2,400 foot mountain, probably in the top fifth of it.
Yeah.
I get down to the top of this cliff, and I look down over, and there's a buck bedded at the bottom of it. Day before the last day of gun season, I shot it through the back of the head, unfortunately, but it was bedded, and I ended up shooting it. And it was like a 180-pound buck, a 7-pointer or something.
Hell yeah,
so
dude.
Don't give up, man. Absolutely. You never know. If it's meant to happen, it'll happen. Don't overthink it and just enjoy it.
Right. Go with the flow as much as you can. And sometimes you get rewarded on things. Great similar story, just not with a buck at the end of it, was I was on a track a couple years ago, probably I think 3 years ago now, and I'm going up this slope, get up to the top, he starts to dip down, I start to dip down, and I'm just moving. Then all of a sudden I realize, like, it's pretty much dark. Like, all right, I'm not going to be able to shoot him anyway. I haven't found him today. Didn't catch up to him. But I had like 15 minutes left that I could have pushed a little bit. But then I'm like, I do have about a mile and a half to get out. It's dark. I'm going to turn around. It's the end of my day. I turn around in that spot and look back the direction that I need to come, and there's a giant shed sitting on the ground right there that I had walked over on that track.
That's awesome.
Right? I'm like, there's my sign.
That's it.
The dear gods just said, congrats, you made the right decision. Pick that up and left.
That's
and
it.
That was the first shed I had ever found in my life.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Yep.
That's sweet, dude.
And then I gave it to Paul so Cannon could play with it and get the itch, hopefully, to find more. So
yeah, so it's gone. So he owes you a giant shed. That's how I interpreted that.
It was chewed up pretty good.
Okay.
It wasn't super pretty.
I got you.
Yeah, but it had a freaking fat base on it, dude. It was like,
awesome.
Oh yeah. But anyway, see, we'll just go for another hour.
We can keep going, dude. Yeah.
But anyway, that was a good wrap up. I like what you said.
Yeah.
I like what you said there. Yeah.
Don't overthink it.
Don't overthink it and keep learning.
That's it.
How's that?
That's a good end.
Yeah. Well, thanks for swinging in and talking about this. I think that we should do this again.
Yeah.
If
Dude,
you're
I'm
down.
game whenever. I'll talk deer hunting. This is like the only thing I know how to talk about.
Yep. We can talk turkeys too. I mean,
I can
do that a little bit.
I've been turkey hunting for a while.
Yep. Yeah, I could pick your brain a little bit about turkeys.
Yeah. There's not as much that goes into turkey hunting.
There isn't as much, no, but there's more sometimes than I think people give it credit for.
Yeah, I could probably do an hour in a turkey hunting.
Let's do that.
I could probably stretch it to 2 if I want to talk about every single turkey hunt I've been on, but it's relatively pretty quick. I mean, it's not like deer hunting.
It absolutely isn't. I agree with that.
It's way more social, way less analytical.
Yes.
Easier to do with multiple people.
Oh, totally.
And you don't have to think about it nearly as much as deer hunting.
Right. And it's interactive. But no, Tyler and I have already talked a little bit about turkey hunting. I'm just saving that till closer to turkey season to actually put that up as a podcast.
Coming up.
But it is coming up right around the corner, so if we want to talk a little bit more, I can add those into like April episodes leading up to May. Get everybody psyched.
There you go.
And
Coming up
much longer till I'll be in April doing those, so we might already be there with the 3 episodes that I can do.
There you go.
But, cool. Anyway, we'll sit down again. Thanks for coming and talking about this, and I'm sure we'll probably closer to deer season too. Like we can talk more deer and get into so much other stuff.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me,
dude. This was
appreciate
awesome.
it. Yeah,
I do appreciate you coming in. So
right on.
All right, guys. Thank you for tuning in on to this episode. We'll see you on the next one.